All right, welcome into a case study deep dive here as we're going to be talking with Rob Estep, an amazing dual business owner, both a photographer and a social media slash agency business for a bunch of different kinds of businesses, actually. And Rob, I'm excited to dive in today to hear your story and let people hear, hey, what is it that if I'm running whether it's a marketing agency or a photography business, what are the things that I should have in mind when it comes to my business finances? And then what has the experience been like for you as you've gone through the process of CEO Finance Academy? So we'd love to start off with just give us a little bit of an insight into what types of businesses you run. I was going to say what type of business, but I know it's two fairly different ones that you actually manage really well. Very few people, and I tell you this all the time, very few people can pull off having two successful businesses at the stage that you do and do it so well. And so I'd love you to give people a little bit of an insight into what kind of business you run and a little bit of the story of how you got to where you're at now.
Okay. So for the past 12 years, I've ran a real estate photography company out here in Arizona. Been very successful with it. We've grown a huge clientele. From there, we decided to find ways to keep our clients loyal to us and be able to provide alternative services to them, not just real estate photography, not just single property websites, things like that. So we started offering website design for realtors and social media management for them. So they had a complete package for their marketing. From there, other real estate photographers started getting with us, wanting us to do their websites, and they started referring their companies over to us that they work with, their small businesses. So we decided to branch off and open up a second division strictly to digital marketing online for reputation review management, website design, social media management. So we branched off into caffeinated marketers as the digital marketing side. And, it's been a long process getting there, but, we're up and running and enjoying it. It's a lot of fun to be able to merge the two together, to be able to pivot. And because of the things that I did over the years, is lack of better terms, being a money hoarder in my business, it is allowing me to do this. So I've been fortunate there. But over the course of the 12 years, never really had an understanding truly of my financials. Just bank the money, keep it there, because one day you'll need it. But I needed more clarification and clarity on when can I expand, how do I expand, what's my cost to expand, bring people on. I just never had a clarity of it, was never taught that. Always had business accounting background, but that's not growing the business financially.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's interesting. We often see two sort of buckets of business owners as we go in and analyze businesses and then work with people. The most common bucket is not the one that you fall into. It's we call it, they have head in the sand syndrome. And I had that too early on in my business ownership journey, where it's like, you know what? I'm not going to worry about money. I'm just going to worry about marketing and sales and stick my head in the sand and hope that I can just market and sell my way out of any financial issues. And I just expect it to work out because I'm so great at marketing and selling. And they really put their head in the sand and don't realize how much is going out until they look up and say, oh crap, I got to deal with this. That's camp one. You don't fall into that. You fall into camp two, which is the entrepreneur that is so careful with their money that they say, you know what, I'm going to save everything. I'm going to hold on to it all. And I'm going to be hesitant to whether it's hesitancy to spend it or just carefulness around, hey, I don't want to spend too much. And I fall into that camp personally. And now with my kind of our business situation, I would probably put myself more in that camp. But it's a real thing for people to say, I have this money, in your terms, money hoarder. I think that's too negative of a term for you. You've been very diligent in saving, and you created a profitable business, and you were careful with it. But that also produces its own difficulties when you go to scale and grow the thing. And all of a sudden it's like, all right, we're going to need to do some strategic investing in the business, but we got to make sure that we're not just blowing money left and right and become irresponsible with it. Right. So I'm curious, what specific things do you feel like you were slowed down by because of that initial mentality of, I just want to hold on to everything? Were there things in the business that now looking back, it's like, oh, I could have done this sooner, or I could have made this investment or this higher? Are there any things that you feel like, because of now looking at finances in a different way, you've been able to grow faster?
Yeah, I think, just being able to realize when I can hire. For the longest time, it was always, well, if I don't do the photo shoots or I'm not out there doing the marketing, that the money's not going to come in. I won't have the reserves. It's going to eat up money by paying somebody else. The taxes that come along with paying somebody else, all that stuff that comes into it was a fear. It was like, well, that's going to cut into that savings, that money that I've put there. But in reality, looking back now, sure, I would have spent that, but I probably would have 10 photographers now and have grown that to where I was working on that business versus working in it and being part of it on a daily basis a lot sooner than what occurred. It was always a fear, like, oh my gosh, we're going to put this payroll out, but all this money banked was from me doing all the work. So now we're going to dip into it, but in reality, I could have grown twice as fast probably had I just spent the money to hire somebody in the beginning to photograph houses and me run the back office instead
Yeah.
of me going out and do it.
How has the business changed now that you have been able to say, okay, now I can invest in people, now I can hire? What's different about the business now versus say 6 or 8 months ago?
Um, Really, I think having categories of where my money's going. So I have a growth fund. I have my money set aside for taxes. It's just not lumped into one big cash deposit that's just sitting there that I go, oh, if my tax bill's due and oh my gosh, that money's going out, that's dropping me below what I'm comfortable. It's all set aside now, it's all accounted for. So I know when I can grow. I know if my growth fund hits 6 months worth of payroll, I'm probably solid to go ahead and hire somebody for that spot because I've got that payroll in the bank already to cover them and can use that in the event that I need it. If
Yeah.
I don't need it over that 6 months, I've got growth funds for something else, training, education, software, whatever I need, it's there and I know how much I've got set aside for it, where before I never knew that.
Yeah. I'm curious, and if you don't want to share, you can just slap me upside the head and say, no, I don't want to talk about that. Totally fine. I'm curious, how much do you think your revenue has grown as you have started to expand this other side of the business since we started working together? Because you made lots of hires now that are able to do stuff that previously you had to do or that maybe you couldn't do before. I know you've got another coaching too in terms of marketing and sales. How much do you feel like you've grown in revenue over the past 6 months or so because of the changes that you've started making?
Um, I think we're safe to say probably somewhere we're up to probably about a 13 to 15% increase in revenue, and continuously growing. And we're building a residual income, which is not what I originally started out with. It was one property, one shoot, but now we're selling add-on services that are recurring and residual. And that's something that has helped it a lot because that money's coming in as we go into a slower season. It's, real estate photography in Arizona when it's 115, 120 degrees, nobody wants to go look at a house. So, it's our slow season, but all this reoccurring revenue and focus on that and margins and knowing where the money's at is set us up for any slow months that we run into.
Yeah. So that's I know a question for people who have very seasonal businesses is how do I deal with seasonality when I might have boom and bust cycles throughout the year? And now with how we've set things up, then what does that look like for you now that as things start to slow down, are you going to freak out because, oh, we're going into slow season and now my revenue is going to get cut significantly because, I don't have as much business? Or how are you going to deal with this? And maybe what's the mental shift now as we've adjusted how you keep track of and manage your money?
Well, the mental shift, I think the big part of it is that I've got those growth funds, I've got reserves, it's categorized. So as I start to transition through the slow period, I've got the growth funds there if I need it as backup, or we get through it and never have to touch it. Well, now I got money to play with at the end of the year to hire, spend on marketing, run ad, whatever I need to do at that point. So it balances itself out. It gives me a way to say I can spend money and it's there. I don't have to worry, is this going to cut into this bucket or is it going to cut into that bucket or what? It's set aside, it's there. My taxes are set aside. So everything is there to know on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, what I've got to work with. It's no more guessing. So, if a $3,000 lens breaks, growth funds, it's there. I've got that backup for whatever we need as we go through things. And it's just nice to know that, know what the exact number is every single month, what we've got to work with.
Yeah. You mentioned both on the growth fund side, and then also you mentioned earlier the taxes side. I find that it makes paying taxes so much less painful when I've already got the money there and it's allocated towards it. Like you mentioned earlier, if you get a big old tax bill, it's like, otherwise I'm reducing my reserves by that much. It's like, oh, a $15,000 tax bill hurts. Otherwise, if we have $15,000 already sitting in the bank labeled tax savings, it makes that much easier to just say, oh, cool, it's fine. It's same thing with the growth funds. And I love how that lowers stress levels in the business by having those buckets like that. So let's imagine someone comes to you and says, okay, what's it actually like in CEO Finance Academy? What do they actually do with you? Describe the experience for someone who's wondering, what the heck is it like? What am I actually going to get out of the experience?
So, I was reluctant in the beginning, but once I got the material and started the coaching calls, it really started to develop clarity very quickly. The spreadsheets, the going through numbers, the resources, the tools there, the community environment, the coaching calls, everything just gives so much clarity that is not taught anywhere else. I mean, my dad was an entrepreneur. I went to school for business. I did multiple companies as a high school, and so I've always been pretty much self-employed, except for a few years that wasn't able to do something, but I've never seen anything like it, to be honest. It is just the clarity with the spreadsheets. I know what I can hire. I can calculate what it's going to cost me to hire somebody, whether it's $18 an hour or $40 an hour. I know how it's going to impact numbers. I know sales wise where we're at, expenses. Everything is just broken down into spreadsheets that daily, weekly, monthly I can access and know everything. The dashboard is just key to running any business, no matter what stage you're in. It blew my mind how much clarity it gave me with my numbers and what I could do and what I can't do. It tells me exactly when I can do something, and that's huge. It's invaluable. It's doing this for so long. There was always the questions. Accountants will not give you an answer for running a business. They'll give you an accountant answer. A CPA will give you a CPA answer. A bookkeeper will give you a bookkeeper answer. But nobody out there or anything I found gave me clarity until I came across this and the dashboards that are provided.
So that's a question that we get a lot. Well, I already have a CPA. I already have a bookkeeper. Why would I need this? What do you feel like was different about CEO Finance Academy versus the information or knowledge that you're getting from a CPA and bookkeeper?
It's again, bookkeepers, CPAs, they won't give you a business answer. They give you a tax answer. And running a business is completely different than tax answers. It's, two separate things. The only thing that, why you have to have a CPA or a bookkeeper is to pay taxes. It has nothing to do with running your business. It's so that the government knows how much to charge you in taxes, is really why you've got them, and to decrease, the amount that you hopefully pay in taxes, but that has nothing to do with running a business, has nothing to do with hiring anybody, any of that. It's strictly taxes. And that's not an answer as a small business owner or large business owner that you can have. Sure, you want to know your profit and your loss, but again, they're going to give you tax answers in regards to that, not everyday business answers.
Yeah. And we find that there's often a disconnect between the entrepreneur and the numbers that they're getting from a bookkeeper or a tax provider, because there's not that insight into, okay, I need to make a business decision now based off this. Your bookkeeper isn't going to sit down and say, oh, let's look at what you can afford to hire someone, and let's look at the payroll tax implications, and let's look at benefits implications, and right. And that's hopefully what people get when they come in. I'm curious. I know that some people feel like, I've maybe made some past financial mistakes, or I'm nervous to have someone actually look at my numbers. It's, it's awkward. It's like I'm opening up everything and standing on a stage, and it's awkward. What would you say to someone who's concerned about having that level of openness with the profit coach within CEO Finance Academy? How have you dealt with that? Because we've had conversations about like, hey, here's where we're at, here's where we're going. How have you experienced that maybe nervousness and then allowed yourself to kind of open up into these kinds of conversations? Because I know some people feel like this might be awkward.
And when you first think about it, you're thinking about it, it does seem awkward. But in reality, most entrepreneurs, most small business owners, who do you have next to you that you can bounce that information off of? You're not going to bounce it off your hourly employee to say, hey, we made $20,000. Can we hire? It's you need somebody as an entrepreneur, and a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners out there don't have that people to bounce stuff off of, that have been through the trials, that are going through the trials of building, growing, expanding a business. I mean, I guarantee if my wife was involved in the day-to-day operations of the business, it'd probably be divorce. It just doesn't work. So I've never had that person to bounce the financial ideas off of. She doesn't understand small businesses. She doesn't understand profit and loss, all that stuff. So I've never had anybody to bounce the ideas off of. Like I said, I'm not going to bounce it off in an hourly employee. I've got other real estate photographers, digital marketing companies that, we bounce ideas off, but you don't really open up to them and say, hey, this is what I'm going through. Have you ever gone through this? Here's my numbers. Can you help me look at this? Because you want to kind of look successful to them as you're talking to them. You don't want to say, hey, I lost $20,000 last month, or whatever it may be. So having somebody that's independent, that's knows the numbers, how it works with a business, is actually, once you start and you see the dashboards and start to see the numbers and where the money's flowing, it's a relief. You almost look forward to every single call on a regular basis, going, great, what problem can we tackle this week, this month? What can we address? How do we work around it? This came up unexpectedly. I mean, we had an instance when you and I had a call. We had a $5,000 auto repair out unexpectedly. And, when we went through it, it's like, look, you spent $5,000 unexpectedly. You didn't touch your growth fund. You still made a profit, and went through, and you're kind of like, wow, yeah, I did that. Where on your own by yourself, you're like, man, I just spent $5,000. What the heck? You don't look at it in that way. So it builds more confidence. You get more confident in your business, having somebody to bounce those numbers off of, going through it, going, hey, can you cut this? Can you cut that? Why are you spending this? Do you need it? Just somebody outside looking in, because I guarantee you, we're like horses running a race around the track. We've got our blinders on. We're putting out fires every day as a business owner. We're running the race with blinders on, looking at what we want to see every day. And then you come into clarification and reality of what you can do once you see the numbers and have somebody there to bounce numbers off of. And, it's a relief. You're not keeping all that bottled in anymore as a small business owner.
Yeah, I love it. My last question for you is, how have you measured ROI of working with us? A lot of people think, oh, I've got marketing spend and I can look at a direct ROI from that. I've got other coaching spend where I might get sales coaching or product development coaching, or how to package my services. How are you measuring the ROI of our work together?
My stress level has gone away. I'm paying myself more than I ever have. So my stress level in my personal finances has gone down, as well as my business finances. And I mean, it's just so much off of me knowing that. It's like, hey, I got a bonus. I banked money. We're hiring people. We're expanding. We're doing all this stuff. Life is good. Where before I was just like, I don't know if I can hire. I don't know. And I never pulled the trigger because I wasn't confident. Now I can look at the numbers and say, let's hire, and not have to worry about it. It's just a second nature, which it should always be. You should be able to say, I'm going to hire when I want to hire, or I'm going to put this into the business, or we're going to buy another company vehicle, whatever it may be, or I'm going to pay myself more. It's allowing my family and me to do more things than what we were able to, because I was keeping everything in the business, thinking that if I took anything out of it and paid myself more, that it was going to impact the business and the business wasn't going to survive. So the stress level's gone. I mean, and that return on investment is priceless to me. It was worth every penny. When I signed up, I was like, what did I just do? But looking back now, I'd do it all over again, 100%, not even think twice.
Well, it's time to go take another cruise to celebrate, man. Well, Rob, thank you so much. Appreciate your time today. If someone's interested in caffeinated marketers and looking into what you do, where can they find out about you?
They can find out at www.caffeinatedmarketers.com.
Love it. Rob, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Hopefully this has been insightful for someone who's in your shoes thinking, maybe I've been really good at saving money, or maybe I haven't, but I don't know how I can make these decisions around growth and scaling. And there's this nervousness because you just don't know, right? And so thank you for sharing the story. And I think it's most inspiring to see what's on the other side of getting that certainty, right? It's the growth that you've had. You've hired a lot, you've handed off a lot of things over the last little bit. And,
Yeah.
and it's allowed you to not only successfully manage these two companies, but now be able to, my favorite thing is lower your stress levels. And hopefully not only you appreciate that, but your family as well. And so appreciate you giving us an insight into your journey, man. Go have a great one, y'all. And go check out caffeinatedmarketers.com. Thank you, Rob.
Thanks.